Hey, I'm Claire. Welcome to my studio. Today we are going to be building a little piece of art, tech, and trash together. So we'll be making a small light up piece of art that uses reused plastics or reused paper along with cardboard. All right, here we go. First, let's go over the supplies from the kit. You should have a battery charger, a coin cell battery, a little baggie of LEDs, some silver conductive tape about 18 inches, and some contact paper. If you ordered the supplies on your own, your battery charger might look a little bit different, and the contact paper is optional, so you can feel free to use packaging tape or maybe just not use it at all. All right, now let's look at the things that you can find around your house. You need a pair of scissors, a pencil, some sort of craft glue like Aleene's or Sobo or even Elmer's glue will work. You need some plastic wrappers or old comic books or maybe old catalogs, something that you can repurpose and cut up. You need some cardboard, maybe from a cardboard box that was delivered to your house. You can make it any size you want, but for this project, a small size like maybe 6 inches by 6 inches works really well. And then some optional items, an old plastic lid, some pieces of cardboard cut up to use as glue brushes, maybe an old paintbrush, maybe some old chopsticks, work well. Step one is that you want to actually sketch out what your image is going to be. So this could be anything you want, and you want to just do that in pencil. So here, right now, lately I've been into robots, and especially like drawing cute robots. So this is the one we're going to be doing. This is the finished product I'm going to show you today. So here's a sketched out version in pencil on there. Choose anything you like. I mean, it's not really important what you do. It's just important that this is something that brings you pleasure and that you like. I did a bunch of octopuses for a while. So here's an example of an octopus one. I've done Totoros, I've done crows. I mean, just whatever you're feeling. You want to just sketch out the design on your piece of cardboard. And including, so once you have the whole sketch and as you're thinking about it, you want to plan out where you want those lights to be. So like we saw in the beginning, and I'll show you again here in a second, but the lines on the robot come here on the chest, and I've chosen to use 4 lights and put them in kind of an arc. For this project, since this is the first one we're doing together, you need to do your lights in a line, right? So they could be in a straight line or a curved line. So once you have decided what your image is going to be, oh, and here I said I'd show you this one again. So here's like what it's going to look like on the back. And you can see my lights here are lighting up on the chest, and they're in a nice little arc right there. Okay, sweet. All right, so once you've sketched out your robot, the next step is we're going to be putting in the electronics. You're going to need your LEDs and you're going to need your paper clip first. You'll notice when you pull out, and you might know this already, but you'll notice when you look at your LEDs, there's 2 leads or 2 wires coming off of each one. There's a longer one and a shorter one. And the longer one's always the positive and the shorter one's the negative. So before we do anything, before you put lights in, it's a really good idea to test them. So when you're looking at your coin cell battery, it should have a big plus sign on one side to show the positive. And so you're just gonna put it so your LED touches either side and it should light up. Now I tested all the LEDs in your kits, but it's a good idea to test them before you put them in. It'll just save you a little bit of work. If you put it in backwards, it doesn't work. So before you decide that it doesn't work, try flipping that battery around and make sure that you actually got it the right direction. Okay, sweet. So it's a good idea to just go ahead and test all the lights you're going to be using and make sure that they're going to work. And as I'm talking about it, that reminds me of one other optional item that you might want to have, but that is a red marker. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now we're ready to put them in. So because there are actually 2 wires, we're going to be poking 2 holes for each light. So here, on my example, these dots, right, I'll draw them so they're a little darker to see. All right, that's where I want my lights to be. So I need to punch 2 holes, one above, one below for each dot. I gave you a paperclip in your kit. If you have a safety pin, it is a little bit easier, so feel free to just not use the paperclip if you want. And so you're going to be poking a hole below this dot, all the way through to the other side, and above this dot, or on it. And it's not super important how far apart they are, but you can kind of see what you're going for. If you look at the light, you're going for about the same distance apart as that. They can be a little bit more just because it's a little easier to make it happen. So you're going to do that for each light. And this is probably obvious, but like you don't have to use 4 lights. You can use the number of lights that you want to use. Some people, when they do this the first time, they use fewer and then they make like a second one. So I think I actually gave you an extra one. I think I gave you 6 lights in there just in case. Okay, so I've poked my light. I poked these through. One of the important things when we do this is when we put our lights through, we want the positive side to always be on the same side and the negative side to be on the same side. So that's the longer wire. And so I kind of always, my thing in my mind, so I never try not to mess it up, is I always put positive up. So you could do this where you just take it, you find the longer wire and you put it closer to the top and you poke both of them through. When you're working with a lot of these, it's really easy to get confused. And so that's why a red marker might be helpful. Sometimes I like to take a Sharpie or whatever and just color. Positive is always red in the electronics world. And that way, even when it's on the back, I know which one I'm working with and I don't accidentally put one in backwards. Because if you put one in backwards, you're gonna go through the whole process and then you're gonna go to light it up and it's not gonna work. So, which isn't the end of the world, like you just pull it apart and do it over again, but it'd be nice to avoid that if we could. And now I'm gonna put them all through. One wire through each hole. Right, and so they're sticking out the back. Okay, so when you get to the back, using my finger, I'm gonna hold it so it's snug against the cardboard, and then I'm gonna fold over this wire so that it stays in there. I want it to be as snug as possible. I'm gonna do that 4 times, or however many lights you're using. Again, I'm holding that firm and folding those over. I'm just gonna draw a red little arc here to remind myself which way is positive. So as you probably know, for a circuit to work, all of our positives and all of our negatives need to be connected, and then those will be connected to a battery source, and that's gonna light it up. So we're gonna use something called conductive tape. This stuff is really cool. I used to use copper tape, which is also cool, but it corrodes over time. And so you make a piece of art and then within, a month or so, it doesn't work, right? And so that's super frustrating. And I found this stuff to be just like so much more reliable. Okay, now if you did these in a straight line in any way, it's super easy. You're just gonna cut out these straight pieces. But mine are a little bit curved. So it's gonna be just a tiny bit more challenging, but not bad. So what I want is I want a piece that's as long as all these positives. And I want 2. So I want 2 pieces of tape for the top and 2 pieces of tape for the bottom. So I tried to give everybody enough tape that they could do as big as a design as possible. So right now it looks like I have a bunch of extra tape. That's cool because that allows for another project, but it also, if I mess up, it helps me with that. So, okay, cool. So I want this tape to go under all of my positives. So you can see how if I kept it straight, it's barely touching these end ones, right? So I'm gonna actually cut out a little arc here to just try and make this have the most possible contact as I can. All right, so now you can see it's really touching that one. These 2 are good. This one, not so great. So let me experiment with cutting a little more out of the middle and see if I can get more contact on that last one. In theory, you only need like the slightest bit of contact, but I've found the more the better. All right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, so I want 2 exact copies of this. So I'm gonna take that other piece of tape and cut just a second copy. Okay, so there's my top. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the bottoms, but kind of in reverse, right? Because this time I'm gonna want the arc to go that way. So you might notice like I'm not being like crazy precise and I'm not worrying about this too much. I'm just doing the best that I can and then correcting as we go. Okay, that one's really good, that one's really good, that one's meh. All right, if I cut a little bit down here. Nice, that's excellent. Okay, and again, I want 2 copies of this. So I am going to just line this one up and make a second copy. Then we're gonna be putting one of these under and one of these over to make sure we have a really good connection. And you can kind of see here how the wires are sandwiched in between. So this is gonna be a little bit tricky to get the paper off. Especially when you're trying to do it in front of somebody. Okay, so I'm gonna bend these up just a tiny bit. And I wanna slide this under so that I'm getting like maximum amount of metal contact. Sweet. I'm gonna press that down. Okay, and I'm gonna take the exact same copy and put it on top. I'm gonna line that up. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. The key is that your positive and your negative sides are never touching. And then take your fingernail and really, really rub this down and make sure that each wire has really good contact with the conductive tape. Okay, excellent. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom. And again, make sure no matter what you do that this bottom, the negative side conductive tape is not touching the positive side. All right, okay, sweet. So then when you take your battery holder with the on-off switch and you have your battery, you're gonna wanna put it in positive side up and then turn that switch on. So I wanna make sure I touch red to red and black to black, and we're gonna test that it works. And ba-bam, it works. If this doesn't work for you the first time, don't panic, okay? There's a series of things you can try. One, it's possible your battery's in upside down. So you can pull your battery out, flip it around, and try that again. I often forget to switch the on switch on, and that's why it doesn't work. And so I go through all these problems and then it still doesn't work, and then I realize I didn't turn it on. You can also go through and check and make sure that you really did put all the positives each way. If you need to, just go ahead and take this and peel up this second layer of tape, check your LEDs, right? And then you should have some extra tape. You can always make another one. I always save the backs, right? And that way if I need to cut it out again, I have like that same piece there and I can still cut that out, okay? All right, excellent. So now you have a choice, right? If you want to, you can attach this down. I used a little bit of glue under the battery. Okay, so now you're just gonna attach these to there using little pieces of that extra tape that you had. I'll just do one so you get the idea. And again, like, I'm the queen of overkill. I like to have a lot. I like to have like massive amounts of connection. So I'm going to use conductive tape then to attach my battery wire to here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, making sure it's working the whole time. You can glue this down if you want. And then the contact paper is just clear film that if you want to, you can put over the back just to kind of, it's sticky, and you can press down those wires. Some people make multiple ones of these, and so they're like, no, I don't want to attach my battery because I want to have different ones to light up. So I'm going to make like 3 or 4 pieces, and then I'm going to move my battery around. So that's an option too, the tech part, right? And so the next part is the art part. You have a lot of creative license here. There's no one right way to do this. And so I highly suggest that you just experiment and you see like what suits your eye. I tend to do random, like I like random shapes. And so I'll cut out all kinds of different shapes with maybe occasionally some specifics. A friend of mine, Kate, made this octopus piece and she liked all of her pieces to be like the same shape. And so you can see she cut out all the same size squares for the most part, and then she made it work so that it had this more regular kind of appearance. And this one's on a little piece of wood, but it's the same thing. You can see the little eyes light up, so cool. All right, so either way around it, the process is really simple, but it does take a decent amount of time. So depending on what you're using, if you're using your plastics, and again, just to put a little bit of plug into the reuse angle for this, single-use plastics like this are one of the hardest things to reuse or to do anything with, right? Like they're not recyclable. They're pretty hard to like use again as a bag, right? And repurpose it. And so one of the reasons that I like to use plastics is that I feel like I'm really extending the life of this material, right? When otherwise this might just end up in landfill. All right, so then what you're gonna do is as simple as you're gonna cut out pieces of plastic, and you can pre-cut and have a whole bunch of piles next to you, or you can cut as you go. Your hands will get a little bit messy, so that's, you know, if that helps you decide what you want to do. Again, I'm super into random. You'll notice that I did cut out like specific feet and specific hands here. Oh, and that little middle piece. And that's a little twist tie too, so you can use other items. But the rest of this is just random shapes. And then you are going to glue them on in layers. So this is where the lid comes in. Okay, so I put a little dab of glue there. And then once you've kind of figured out your color scheme, like I'll make this one a little bit different than the other one, you are simply going to take your pieces of plastic, cover them in glue, and start making your beautiful little design. And the nice thing about it is if you change your mind or you decide like, oh, I don't really like the way that looks, it's very easy to cover up, all right? And so you're slowly just going to assemble this and put it together until you get the intended result. Okay, so you can imagine that you just keep going, right, until you get everything glued on. One trick to think about when you're planning it out, so I went ahead and did like the body and then most of the head first, but all of the limbs and appendages, I waited and then I did the whole background next, and then I did those last. So that might make your life a little bit easier if you just plan out what's in front of what else. But seriously, I highly recommend not worrying about it too much and just going for it. That's how we learn, and sometimes that's how we create our best work. Okay, excellent. So real quick, I just wanted to show you how this idea of art, tech, and trash can grow. So this is a work in progress. It's actually my second run through. The first time I didn't really like it, so I'm doing something different. So I'm currently using old comic books for the water, and then I'm using old used Lego. So a lot of these are super dirty, or there's part of it that's broken off for the arms. And this one has tons of LEDs. So this uses Adafruit's NeoPixels, and let me just kind of show you what the back looks like. The one we did together used cardboard. This one uses reused wood. It used conductive tape. This one is fully wired. We didn't use any microprocessor. It's pretty simple. This one uses Adafruit Flora. And so this allows it to have two sensors. One is an ultrasonic that allows for space. It senses how close you are. And another is a simple button. So when this one's done, the lights will change color the closer you get. And then when you push the button, different things are going to happen. Right now it just turns all the lights white. All right, so hopefully that'll inspire you to dive deeper and to reach out to me if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Thanks. Bye.